we shouldn't also fail to talk about cases of corruption and how Nigerians haven't actually been satisfied with the feelers or the language, body language, and even resort coming from the judiciary. We also sometimes how some of these judgments were handed down, and when it comes to someone who's perhaps maybe a petty thief, and how he gets some kind of outrageous sentence compared to what we have seen in 2013. Even though some have been sanctioned, do you think, well, that would definitely serve as a deterrent measure to others who would come in this year to continue in giving us such kinds of judgments?
You know, issue of corruption in Nigeria is very endemic. It's been there for more than 30 years. In fact, it has gone down that if you go to your town union now, they can hardly give you a detailed report of their accounts, finances. To your town union, I attended my town union meeting, I asked, where are the audited reports of accounts? It's nowhere. So corruption has been there for more than 30 years. How are we approaching it? Corruption in the school system. Many of us, when we went to school, we saw, some of us didn't meet it, a situation whereby at the end of the school season, just like ASU, we said, ASU, they signed agreement, they were happy. The government did not ask them, are you going to release results immediately after exams? What are you going to do? We parents, you will be there. You will not get results of your guardians or children, you know, the results of your wards or children. At the end of the day, you don't even know whether your ward is attending university or not, because nobody gets back to you. It is also an aspect of corruption. It's also an aspect of supervision. So we think, like I said, what are we going to do? What are our expectations this year? We should be looking at education. If you don't have proper education of your people or for your people, that is why you get into all this. And it's not just money. When we say Ministry of Education budget, give them 20%, give them 50%, it is not a question of money. It's also a question of supervision. And when you have the right people from the educational sector, you now think of reducing corruption. And you look at the economic indices. What are the economic indices you have? What do you allot to recurrent revenue? You know, recurrent expenditure of the government. You also look at the entire economic management. So it's something I think the government should look at in this year. How do you manage services, government services? What do they do? You know, taxation. What do they do? What are we doing in terms of all these? So corruption is something that is very recurrent, which all of us will continue.
I have this question from Egwando Tone. He says, how will the Salami saga affect electoral cases in future in Nigeria? Will judges be bold to take landmark decisions?
Yes, you know, it is also dependent on individual judges or individual judge. I think that judges will take bold decisions tomorrow or next year, or how it's going to take place. They have been thinking that many of them didn't have the same problem that Salami had. You know, so with the current CJ, remember that Salami saga was under the previous administration.
Yeah, but it's not a continuum.
It's not a continuum. It's also independent. You know,
so whatever happens at that time ends. Even disciplinary cases ends with that previous administration?
No, it was not the executive that disciplined Salami.
No, I'm talking about the judiciary.
That's what I'm saying. It was under a different administration. Salami was disciplined or was victimized, according to some people, under a separate administration. Perhaps if the same CJN were available that time, she wouldn't have taken that decision that the NJC took that time. So, and the judges know this.
Is it the CJN that takes that decision or the NJC?
CJN is the chair of the NJC.
Does she have
she presides over the NJC. A presiding officer says much about how a particular body functions.
Much more than other members.
The CJN also has a lot of appointees of his or hers in the NJC. A presiding officer, just like we said, if you have president of the
Federal, that suggests cronies.
If you want to call it cronism, fine. But the important thing is that a presiding officer in anything determines how the thing works, especially when the presiding officer can make some appointments, personally. It's very easy for the presiding officer to determine the movement of a body which the presiding officer is in charge of. Some of us said the CJN should not be chair of the NJC, but the position of the constitution today is that the CJN is very powerful in the NJC by virtue of the fact that the CJN will appoint close to 30% of membership of the NJC.
So does that mean by innuendo, any decision that the NJC comes up with is the CJN's decision?
Basically, you may not necessarily call it the CJN decision, but you can say that the CJN can have very good input, serious input. That is, the influence of the CJN cannot be witched away.
Well, definitely, thinking about what you're saying, there will definitely be advantages and disadvantages to it. But one of the notes upon which you started was that you were very happy, saying that there were some people going through a disciplinary action in front of the NJC. And when Sulaiman asked about corruption, you tended to say that corruption will always be a part of us. Was that what you were insinuating? I just need to get you right on that.
No, I didn't say will always be a part of us.
Yes.
I said it has been with us for 30 years,
yes.
more than 30 years. And I am saying that we need to have a different approach towards fighting corruption.
Yes, but
we need to be serious.
But you definitely, definitely the reference you were making at the beginning was also concerning corruption. That's why you were happy that 15 people or 15 judges were undergoing disciplinary action with the NJC. So definitely corruption is a problem in the judiciary that you're hoping will be tackled through that method, right?
Yes, yes.
But how is it trickling down to other cadres? I mean, right now, yes, the NJC might be dealing with judges or is dealing with judges, but how is that also trickling down to other areas? I mean, where corruption could be rampant or could hinder the process. For instance, lawyers talk about filing cases and how you have to pay certain charges to bailiffs and other people who are involved. How is that reform going on with the judges affecting all these other cadres as well?
And they are not necessarily trickling down. And that is why we are saying, why we are pointing out what the CJN and the NJC are doing, we are pointing them out so that others, the state judiciary will also take you from it. The various CJs, with the Federal High Court and others, will look at it and say, okay, let's move on. Let's get the judiciary cleaned up. Let's get the bailiffs, the court registrars to be in line. So we hope that many of them will look at this and see it as an entire system.
So you're not seeing that yet?
No, we've not seen that yet. But in some states, I think they are trying to, key up.
How can the way judges are appointed change? I mean, the judiciary now influencing it, because if you leave it to the executive, they like it the way it is.
Yes.
Because they've not done anything contrary.
Yes.
How do you think it should happen?
Well, some of us have said that, in some jurisdictions, judges are elected in some jurisdictions. But we think, more importantly, is that we think that here, it should be enshrined on comments on who should be appointed.
That's how it used to be before.
That's how it used to be before. But not necessarily, even today. Before a judge is appointed, he's sent to the NBA for comments. But most times, whatever comments NBA makes does not weigh in the mind of the appointing officers.
So why did they send it?
So why do they send it? That's the question. Why do they send it to NBA? But this time around, judges to be appointed should not just be sent to the NBA. It should be published. These are the list of people that are to be appointed.
No, but the NBA itself is not above board, is it?
No, it's not above board. But people can tell you, this man you want to appoint, you're appointing him from us. This man you want to appoint, these are the character we know of. Some people will write individually. And such things should be investigated. Most times, the SSS will give reports of particular individuals they want to appoint as judges. That these people are people of questionable characters. And they are still appointed. So either the governor says, CJ, put his name.
Can the NBA, and why haven't they, if they haven't, refused to make further comments or receive any of the correspondence about judges who are to be appointed that go through them, since they don't listen to their opinion?
Some of them is a question of leadership of the NBA too. the leadership of the NBA may not be the best. I will tell you, the leadership of NBA is in one place. Some of them that I know in Ibadan or Aba recently, they were advised this person should not be appointed. And when they go on to appoint, some of them will say, we won't go to court again as a result. Ibadan has done it, Aba has done it, some others are taking you. And that is the type of leadership.
No, they boycott the person's court, the judge's court.
Not just boycott, from the one, when the appointment process is on, they will insist, they will make it public, this person should not be appointed. And they will threaten that if you appoint the person, we will not go to the person's court. There are some courts today in Aba where the NBA leadership said, look, these courts, we're not going to appear there because of the character of the judge.
So it can happen at the umbrella, at the higher level of the NBA.
Yes, it can happen at the high level of NBA. The NBA should be able to say, look, this judge at the point of appointment or after appointment, they find out that the judge has continuously either not dispensing justice or continuously been corrupt or continuously been very slow, like some judges may come to court by 11 a.m.
Thank you for coming on. Chukwuma Ezeala, legal practitioner.